Hi. It's time to start. Let's start the today's session. Today's session is shown right here. We have the visiting researcher, Dr. Dutta from Warsaw University of Technology. And he is a visiting researcher in these 2 months, July and August, as academic internship, to learn about the academic management and academic treatment in the university professor, as a university professor. So therefore, maybe the detail about the purpose of staying here and some other contents will be introduced by himself. So today's main topic about this self-introduction, about the summer internship, and then the future plan and the discussion. Maybe Dr. Zutta will present about less than 30 minutes, but the remaining time is used for the Q&A session. So please understand about that. And maybe Dr. Dutta will present about only an outline of something. So therefore, if you are interested in details, please ask later, or ask later or after the presentation, after the talk. Is it okay to start, Dr. Dutta?
Yes, Professor.
Yes, yes. Yeah, please start your talk.
Hello, everyone. Professor Matsumare already introduced me. So I'm just recently graduated 3 years before my PhD, and currently I'm appointed as a teaching assistant professor in Warsaw University of Technology at Faculty of Mechatronics. Before I introduce the slides, so today my agenda will be like a brief introduction about me, what is my education history, what is my current research and didactic responsibilities. And then I will discuss about just a few of my current research project that which currently I'm working on, which is I'm interested. And then what is my purpose of staying here at IPS under Professor Laboratory, what we did, what I learned, what is the purpose of this internship, what I achieved so far, results, and what will be the future plans. This will be discussed. So before we go into, I just wanted to give a self introduction. So basically, as you know that I'm from India, but I finished my master's and bachelor studies back in my country. Although 6 months of my master studies I spent in University of Chicago during my master thesis and the computer science department, but overall the studies was and the degree I received from the India. Then I was in Erasmus Mundus Fellowship, European Fellowship for my doctoral studies at Warsaw University of Technology. And I finished my doctoral studies in robotics in early 2019. And then I was part of also another European Union projects, which is deal with that cyber physical system for the robotic system. And I was a part of as a postdoctoral researcher over there. And I was part of this project almost 1 year, 3 months. And we were working on basically how to secure the robotic system when we are talking about human-robot interaction, the safe environment of human-robot interaction, especially in the industrial plant. And during my doctoral studies also, I would like to discuss, because I'm going from the back, in the doctoral studies, I was basically focused on also safe human-robot interaction, but mostly by observing the human movements and also the prognosing, that means predicting the movements of the human motions to perform some kind of robotic tools which can do the assistive task, which means we want to create a robotic tools that does not interfere the human ecosystem, but to support the human ecosystem. That means to support the human ability, or that means where the human needs a companion and the robot mates. That means we have the people, disabled people, we have elderly people with dementia, and how we can offer them the tools, because human involvement cost a lot, because you have to service, you have to provide salaries, and human limitation is also, we have huge intelligence, but if you talk about physical, we have limitation. But a robot companion, or we can say in other terms that robot helpmen can offer those intelligence or offer those services for a long period of time without any disparity or without any stopover, I would say. So, and this is one. And after that, I was employed at the Faculty of Mechatronics from the same university where I was finished my doctoral studies. But I was finished my doctoral studies from different faculty, and I was employed in different faculty. Currently, I'm working also in image processing, and to be precise, in also the same thing, understanding the human movements, but mostly with RGB-D sensor. That means the most recent advanced RGB-D, that means depth sensors. Also, we recently introduced 4D system scanning, that means which is actually structure lights, which offer the 3D structure of the human movements for rehabilitation process. And in this case, we were using like kind of 8 structure lights, which has the projector and the different structure like information that can offer us the information in 4-dimensional. Of course, we know the 3-dimensional, that X, Y, Z coordinate of each anatomical movements of human body, but also we have this time information, and that also help us to observe a high dynamics movement. That means which is very important in terms of rehabilitation process.
So sorry, Dr. Dutta, the slide is not changed only in self-introduction. Is it okay?
Sorry, Professor, I didn't.
Yeah, slide is kept on this self-introduction first slide, but
Yeah.
you are talking about some kind of the research interest of you. So is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I will be discussing more details in later, but just
Okay.
I'm giving you the idea that this is
okay. Yes.
And no worry. And as you say that my current research interest, which I talk about, that particularly image processing, both 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional. And also we were talking about, I was as a human movement studies, that means understand the biological movements, or we can say that in other terms, biorobotics, that means understand the movements of human body, whether it is gesture, whether it is gait analysis or the movements. Also, I am working on the tools that can offer human robot interaction. Now it can be tools can be gesture control, the tool can be voice control, and there's other mediums of human robot interactions, which is also observing human behavior, observing human activity or actions. And also recently I introduced my interest into neural networks, because I believe that machine learning, deep learning has been really significant in today's research group. And these are my current basically 3 projects which is currently I'm working on. So I would be describing all these 3 projects in a very simple and in a most in a pictorial diagrams, because I believe that a picture speaks 1,000 words more than I would like to write more words. So what was my first project? So I was actually describing about the investigating the human postures. That means different kind of human movements, biological movements, or like any kind of body movements, but in sagittal plane. So when you're talking about sagittal plane, what does it mean? I will go this diagram. So when I'm talking about, we can observe human behavior into these 3 kind of planes. That means one is the frontal plane. That means which is the most obvious one. That means we place the camera in front of the human movements, and we observe the movements from the frontal view, and which is the widely used so far, which work on understanding human activity, recognition human activity or actions for any kind of solution, especially in the computer vision. So far, most of the work are around this transverse plane and frontal plane. Why I just mark as a red from the sagittal plane? I know many people may ask that many work also perform on sagittal plane, especially in the gait analysis or even a movement analysis. But if you are talking about sagittal plane, very rare or very limited amount of work which has been done in the only data which is performed on the sagittal plane using vision sensor. Most of the sagittal plane, which we're talking about side view, which works with marker placed on the body, or for the rehabilitation process, for the analysis of the gait analysis, or even if you want to observe the human movements, we always place this marker of the human body. Now, once we're talking about that, we want to create a solution which doesn't disturb the human ecosystem, which doesn't bother the humankind, we have to create a solution that is more wireless, but also at that time useful tools, also at the time which offer the same kind of activities or same kind of solutions which are offered by the wire-based tool, the human body, like which we're talking about Vicon system, which is more widely used motion captures to analyze the human gaits, human body. So in this work, which we are currently working on, we are mostly working on collecting the data from only on sagittal view. There are publicly available huge amount of data available about understanding human body movements, doing activities in a laboratory environment, doing activities in the wild environments. But if you observe those activities, either those activities are frontal view or those activities are 360-degree views. That means we have the overall view. What if we want to create a robotic tools which offer assistive service, or which offer basically a solution to the human daily lives? That means work as a human companion. We cannot expect a robot or a humanoid robot always standing in front of you or behind you, because it's sometimes uncomfortable situation, or it's sometimes the situation where it is not feasible to place. Like for example, if you are working in a kitchen, we cannot expect a robot should place in front of you or in behind you, because the robot will not able to observe your behavior and will not understand and will not able to offer you what you are basically looking for. That's why sagittal plane is also equally important, especially if you want to work with the vision sensors. That means I'm not talking about the Vicon sensor. Of course, with the Vicon sensor we are placing, we can do any kind of activities and we will have data stored easily. But what about the RGB-D sensor, where, for example, as I say, kitchen activities, where robot must place in positions where the robot can observe the human. Now, the most comfortable and most convenient position could be a side view, because you are cutting, you are doing cooking or something which can observe. And once you observe, we say that in a scientific term, learn by observation. If you want to work as a robot's helpmate. So we observe the human behavior, we learn, and then later at the situation, we can create that motion dynamics or the motion synthesis of the humanoid robot or the robot which can offer assistive service at the same time. So sagittal plane is also important, but with the vision sensor, when if you want to create an intelligent tools where you don't want to involve human to wear or human to have lots of instrument on their body or gears. That's so important. So here I write the research problem. What will be the alternative solution which offer with wireless gears to study the human movements? Of course, it has been studied for many years. I think last almost 8 to 10 years with the depth sensors. This is true. And we have huge amount of data available in the public. But what about the only this plane, sagittal plane, which is also equally important? The reason why? Because in the sagittal plane, we observe the movements of human very easily and also very more precisely. Like for example, in the side view, the movements of the band of the body, band of the elbow, band of the knee is more visible compared to the frontal view. So that's why it is also useful for motion dynamics for humanoid robot, because this is the right now is very difficult for the humanoid robot that to create a very popular or create a suitable motion dynamics for humanoid robot which can perform exactly as flexible as human. Then as I said, which I explained, why only focus on frontal and transverse plan. That means why we focus on only in the front view or 360-degree view. So we have to also observe. As I said, this is also we perform in sagittal plane, but not with the RGB-D sensor in terms of observing human activity. I found I have for last 1 year, we are investigating and we discover many data. There are data which included in the frontal view or 360-degree view, but very limited activities are performing in sagittal view. That means only in the side view, which is important. As I mentioned, only sagittal view is focusing on gait analysis or movement on whole body, but using Vicon motion capture. So the first task was for us that is that observing or classification and recognizing the different kind of human movements using depth sensor, but to be precise, to be explicit into sagittal plane. Now I will go back and I will discuss about the study of human motion dynamics to facilitate the dedicated tools for humanoid robot and their movement dynamics. So as I was talking about why it is very important, now, if you look at this diagram, this is also our work laboratory. One of my supervisor who is working with some collaborator from China is Tianjin University of Technology. So exactly this was I was talking. This was our initial task. We were observing is the motion dynamics of the human activity, but in the sagittal plane. As you can see, the movements of the how many angle of rotation, how much displacement in terms of the translation of the anatomical movements. Here we use kind of marker. As you can see, we use the marker, as you can see the marker. But this was our initial task to understand the activities, doing some kind of daily regular activities. Initially we placed with the marker and we said that this is okay because we are using marker, but we did not use any Vicon system, because we want to simply use marker and we want to observe that how the processing, image processing, initial image processing is useful to create a human model. That means kind of we call stick diagram, as you can see here, to understand the dynamic motion dynamics when a person is performing some activities, that how the movements of the hand, how the movements of the body is changing over the time, both in an angular, rotational, and translation space. So this part of work was initial part of our work, which was back in done in 2019 and 20, and it was published on 2021. If somebody wants to read, that means to humanoid motion design. And after this one, when we observed this one, we was able to create motion dynamics for humanoid robots, which exactly offer the same kind of activities. That means which offer the assistive tools to the human doing the same activity once they observe the human is doing as a companion, as a robot companion. But what is now, let's go back to previous. What is the advantage of this work? As I told, easy to design motion dynamics of humanoid robots supporting assistive tasks. Only because also we observe that advantage is high resolution depth sensor, more efficient for motion data processing because it is easy to reconstruct or register the anatomical body part of human body and make it easier to track the movements of human body. Because if you talk about 10, 15 years before, we used to work on two-dimensional space and we used to have to do lots of reprocessing just to get those anatomical points. Right now, what is that this kind of sensor is offering already those kind of points. So we are actually minimize lots of our processing tasks, and also we don't need too much high processing computer just to process this thing. As I said clearly, human movement is observed in the sagittal plane because in this plane, the most visible changes in posture. That means the changes of posture are more visible in this plane. Now, what we encounter is difficulty during this one. Even though RGB-D sensor offer easy registration of human movements or their anatomical joints movements, that means we are getting 3D position, even 2D position of human, but it is still very sensitive to the light and the background. Sometimes in the wild background, if there is oculation, if there is objects is in front of you, some joints are not visible. So we lost the structure of the humanoids, so structure of basically the anatomical joints is very difficult. So that's why I said in the point, initial pre-processing of the data, which for those to clean the filtering is very significant in this one. So these are the basically work I was talking about. Basically, we work about to understand the movements of human posture and also how to create the more posture model for humanoid motion dynamics designs. We work in this one, which is, as you can see in the here, the diagram is so much noise. It is in millimeters, so much noise. Then we improve this quality and we did this. So we want to observe, like, as we said, in the sagittal plan view. There are some of the motion dynamics which is also looks like it's frontal, but we try to keep every activities as sagittal plan view as side view. And then our next task, next project which we are working grant, it is about same thing, but as I said, 4-dimensional scan. That means 4D system. When we talk about 4D system, we are talking about here structure like. So this only the difference between the previous work 3D scan and 4D scan is that in the 4D scan we have this time information that is able to observe the high dynamics movements and also recreate the 3D structure of the human posture. That means any kind of posture, which can be very useful to support rehabilitation process, because 4D scan is the very high resolution first of all, and also offer higher accuracy and less amount of pre-processing is needed because of the filter it has. Our system has a filter that can automatically reduce these errors during the reconstruction of the human body. Now, as you can see here, it is our work, which is also 2020 from our laboratory, which is published in Sensors. And this work is also observe the activity of the human, that's with children with a motor disorder. And during the rehabilitation process, we observe instead of Vicon system or instead of 3D system RGB-D sensor, we use 4D scan of their movements activities. That means for the recipient. And these activities has been performed 3 times. Now 3 times and the 3 scenarios. What was before starting the rehabilitation process to observe their movements, taking into high dynamics movements and how they walk. And this was performed in a basically I forget the English name for this one. We call it for running. We have this indoor running. We have these tools. So we were giving them to walk into that. And then during the rehabilitation process and after the rehabilitation process, what is the advantage of this? Because in the 3D system, we observe only the anatomical joint points. But in this system, basically, we observe the whole body structure and the 3D construction. So we can easily understand the postures of the movements and also what is the difficulties and the posture of the movements in there. And we can offer the support to the rehabilitation process so that the rehabilitation experts can understand what is the need of the patients, especially with motor disorder. Of course, we also measure some normal kids and then we compare the data, and then we have also rehabilitation expert, which is in our team. Then it is his part, which is I'm not so much aware. Our task is to record the data and create this 3D structure to observe the movements and the accuracy of the movements, compare between the motor disorder and the normal kids. So this is work. Moreover, this work is details is in this paper which we discuss, and if somebody wants to read, it is like monitoring improvement of infantile cerebral participation using 4D system. It is clearly described what is the important Of course, we also start with 3D system, but we found the 4D scanning system is much more appropriate and much more higher accuracy, and less amount of work has been done with the 4D scan system. Very, very limited work. Mostly work is limited to Vicon system or RGB-D sensor. So this of my current research. Right now, what I have done so far and what is my purpose of the IPS? That means I came to Waseda under Professor Matsumaru laboratory. So this idea of this internship, which was under European Union, recently European Union introduced some kind of grant or some kind of fellowship, which offer the academic teachers to visit the laboratory in the foreign institute to understand the working culture and what could be new that can bring back to the own country and own institution and can perform. And this was the main idea, because European Union observed during our meeting, we had a discussion that what was missing in the collaboration, because for last decade, more focus placed on collaboration, research collaboration, but sometimes it was not successfully managed. So that's why European Union understand that we have to understand the work ethics, taking into account different cultural attitude, different cultural activities. So then we can create a proper research collaboration environment where each party can equally contribute. This was. And the second was to understanding the teaching method, how the teacher-student interaction, this one. So observing the teaching and research activities in the host institution, that was my goal. What I performed so far under Professor Matsumaru's lab, I attend his human-robot interaction lectures and how it is performed to the students. I was closely observing, I was participate for last 1 month. I also participate in laboratory meetings, how professor interact with the student, how address the research problem, the novelty of the research problem, what can be improved, what is necessary, and also discussing the research activities with the doctoral and master students. That means because some of their students' research work is quite close to my interest and also the similar. So how we can improve the quality of the research, how we can create a new idea, what will be the novelty, this was. So far, what we perform until achievement. We perform the research activities also current to my lab, which I am working. So basically, we perform a few recording of human movements with taking into account cultural difference. That means we perform here in the Professor Matsumaru lab 5 different activities, which is exactly we perform back in our own lab, but different cultural, like for example, how you greetings in a hair culture, and how you do perform if in kitchen activities, and how back in European style. So we want to create a robotic tools that is more universal and not limited to geographic regions or geographic dimensions. That means it can have the tools that can offer an understanding and intelligence beyond the geographic. That means limited geographic tools, but it can offer the universal, which can not limited to cultural restriction. We submitted with Professor Matsumaru and one of the doctoral student a paper in the conference paper in the Robio. And we are also, and I'm also planning and helping, or I'm also working closely with Professor Matsumaru and another doctoral student and targeting another manuscript to submit in IFAC World Congress 2023, which is the one of the most prestigious conference I would consider in our field, automation and robotics. This is target. These are the so far what I learned so far from Professor Matsumaru's lab and the professor itself, which really give me a new idea and innovative concept for me, is that the first one, convince your colleagues and seniors about the nobility of your work and the result. This is the very innovative and unique concept, which I believe I haven't done, and also in our laboratory haven't done. Generally, when our work is basically limited to teacher and students, when we're talking about thesis, that means we are discussing between if the faculty is consider its nobility is nobility, but we should not limit it between faculty and only the students, it should be also the colleagues, it's always seniors, because this is everybody has their own idea and can convince and can give a proper idea. Also, I like this concept, external expert reviews. This is also very important to improve the quality of your work. When you submit the work of your thesis to a conference or journal, you got an external review, and that review is not limited within the university. So that is also improve the research quality of your master thesis, also give you an impression. That means what kind of research work you are doing and what kind of research work is going on around the world. And also understanding the work ethics is, I learned, taking into account, as I said, cultural difference, which I believe increase the possibilities of future collaborations. My future plan is so far writing a joint research proposal, because we have a grant, which is Polish-Japanese grant, which actually comes every once in 2 years. So I think that could be useful for future research grant. Also, Professor Matsumaru and I share the similar research and interest in biorobotics and HRI. So I believe more publication, I believe through the grant and through more research work and collaboration we can expect. And I'm also expecting, because we have Erasmus program, which is European program, and every student from our university must go for an internship under the Erasmus program for 6 months or for 3 months to foreign institute or that. So I think that could also help us to send the students to Professor Matsumaru lab and learn very important thing, because I believe also Professor Matsumaru lab has lots of instrument and lots of things to learn here. And Waseda is also very respected university in around the world because of its ranking and because of its quality research. And I think this will give the opportunities to the students to learn something new, and also it will build a strong collaboration with Waseda University. So this is all so far. I took half an hour. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.